Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us tonight.
At the top of the news at this hour, the AIDS epidemic is, of course, one of the biggest tragedies we have seen throughout this century. The saddest cases of all, the children who became infected. But did the state of Louisiana help cause this tragedy? Crystal Griffith joins us now with a Channel 2 News investigation. Crystal.
Dave and Annie, this is a story about a medicine that was supposed to heal sick children. Instead, it killed them. And now some wonder if the state of Louisiana did the right thing when it sold plasma to drug manufacturers.
Like any 6-year-old, Bradley Cross played video games, played basketball, and dreamed of being a football player. Here he is in 1981 when Channel 2 did a story on hemophiliacs.
What do you want to be when you grow up?
I don't really know. Maybe I might go in the army. I don't really know. I might be a football player. I could get hurt real bad.
He could get hurt because a simple cut or bruise could mean a heavy blood loss for a hemophiliac like Brad. But a medicine developed in the late 60s and early 70s offered hope. It was called Factor VIII and was made from plasma. Brad's parents were taught by nurses how to intravenously give the medicine to their son.
Well, we explained to him that, you know, about his disease and that when he was hurt that he'd have to get this medicine, but that it didn't need to interfere with his life.
The Crosses had no idea the medication would not just interfere with Bradley's life, but ultimately end it. The frozen plasma they were injecting into his veins was tainted with hepatitis and AIDS.
Brad was told he had AIDS when he was 10. He lived 7 more years, but as you can see from this sad home video, the last years were painful. His body turned frail. He couldn't walk or speak. His parents turned their living room into a hospice for Brad until he died in 1993.
And I was doing the best that I knew to do for him. I had no idea that what I was giving him was a toxic poison. And that's what that is. It's a toxic poison.
After Brad's death, his parents sued the manufacturers of Factor VIII. While the jury decided that Factor VIII killed Brad, the plaintiffs did not trace the blood back to a specific drug manufacturer, so no company was blamed for Brad's death. That was in 1993. Since then, other families have filed suit and won. A family from Lafayette was awarded $35 million in March. Part of their testimony came from the Crever Report. The Crever Report is a result of Canada's investigation into tainted blood. The investigation found that blood from the United States was collected from high-risk groups, including inmates, some from Louisiana and the prison at Angola. At that time, blood was mixed together, the healthy and the tainted, with no way to test for disease.
We found out that they were using 400,000 donors in one vat, which is equivalent to my 7-year-old son having sex with 400,000 people at one time when he would take one shot of this medicine.
Back then, there were no tests for AIDS or hepatitis, but that hasn't stopped families today from suing Angola, the state of Louisiana, and drug companies. Why? Because even though people back then didn't know much about AIDS, they knew prisoners were high risk for disease. Canada, for example, stopped taking blood from inmates back in 1971, which makes the Crosses wonder, would Bradley still be alive today if Louisiana had been as cautious as the Canadians?
And why did the state sell blood from prisons? For one thing, money. The plasma was possibly worth millions of dollars. We tried to talk to the drug companies, the state, and the prison, but all have declined because of pending litigation. And tonight at 10, Dave and Annie, we are going to talk to an inmate who was in Angola when they had this blood center, and the stuff he has to say is really shocking.
You know, this is all pretty scary stuff, even though we've heard some of this before. How safe is our blood supply now, many years later?
Well, Dave, our doctors say it's very safe. Now they have to do 13 tests on donor blood before it's distributed to anybody else. A lot different than back then.
Okay.
Thanks.
See you tonight on 10 at 10.